Good morning and welcome. Today we are going to be dividing with two-digit divisors. That is chapter 4, lesson 3. Divide by a two-digit divisor. That is page 263 in our math book. So dividing by a two-digit divisor is very similar to dividing by a one-digit divisor. It's just we have bigger numbers, which for some students complicates things. So the steps of division are the same. Step 1 would be to divide, right? And then number 2, you would multiply. Number 3, the step is to subtract. And step 4, which is sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't, would be to bring down. Only if there is a digit that you have not used yet in your division, that would be step 4, to bring down. And some people can remember this as dad, mom, sister, brother, or some people say, does McDonald's serve burgers? And so just a way to remember that. So we're going to be divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. Now the difference between two-digit divisors and one-digit divisors is usually with a one-digit divisor we can use our multiplication chart. But with a two-digit divisor we're going to have a lot of scratch work. So when you are dividing with a two-digit divisor, I'm going to ask you to take your scratch paper and fold it in half. And draw, put a line down the middle, and you're going to do your division on the left and your scratch work for that problem on the right. And so yes, you may take up a little more paper, but you'll be able to have your work there in front of you. And I'm going to ask you that you do not erase. Do not erase, and I'll show you what I mean by that as we get into this, because what happens is students tend to erase all the multiplication work that they do, and then they end up redoing it because you might need that multiplication work later. Even though it doesn't work for that specific moment, it may work for a later problem. So on page 263, there's a problem that says the yearbook committee took 836 photos with a digital camera over 76 days. If they took an equal amount of photos each day, how many photos did they check each day? And so they want us to write that with a variable, which is a letter. And so the problem that they want us to do is 836 photos divided by 76 days equals P number of pictures taken each day. Now, we have this written the long way, and obviously we cannot solve it in this way, right? We have to do this written in the other way. So I'm going to flip this around, and I'm going to put 836 inside and 76 outside. Now, I don't know my 76s, and so it's going to take some work for me to maybe figure out how many times it goes in. So the first thing I do is estimate how many times do I think 76 can go into 8? Well, I know that it can't go into 8. 8's much, much smaller than 76. So then I'm going to extend that out, and I'm going to say, okay, how many times can 76 go into 83? Well, 76 and 83 are very, very close. And I should recognize that 76 definitely won't go in 2 times. It has to be 1 time. So when I divide, I get 76 goes into 83 1 time. Now I'm going to multiply. So I multiply this digit up here, my quotient, 1 times my divisor. So 1 times 76 is 76, and I'm going to subtract. Now I can't do 3 take away 6. I have to borrow. All the subtraction rules apply. So that becomes a 7, and that becomes a 13, and 13 take away 76 is 7 there, and 7 take away 7 is 0. So I have a 7. Now after I subtract, I always need to check, is my difference smaller than my divisor? So when I subtract, whatever number I have here needs to be smaller than this. So 77 is less than 76, so I am okay. The next step I'm going to do is, since I haven't used this 6, is I'm going to bring down that 6. And now I'm going to divide 76 into 76. Well, they made this one easy for us, right? I know that 76 divides into 76 one time. Then I'm going to multiply this 1 that I just wrote times 76, which is 76. And I'm going to get 0. So 0 is less than 76, so my work here is okay. And I have no remainder. So now I know that P equals 11. So they didn't make that one too difficult on us. If I want to check this problem, I would take my quotient times my divisor. So to check it, I would do 76 times 11. It's 6 and 1. Placeholder. So 1 times 6 is 6, and 1 times 7 is 7. That's a 3. And I get 836. Oops, sorry. So I've checked it. Okay, now I didn't use my scratch paper work on this side because they gave us some easy numbers to deal with. But let me turn the page here. I still have it folded. I'm going to fold it back the other way a little bit so I can see that crease a little bit better. Okay, now I'm going to draw my line down that middle there. Way up to the top here. And on the left, I'm going to do my division. And on the right is going to be my scratch work. And my next problem on page 264 is 751 divided by 30. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite that the other way. 751 divided by 30. Now, again, they didn't give us one super difficult. We're going to have to do another one to do that. So I have to estimate this time. How many times can 30 go into 7? Well, it can't go into 7, so I know I have to go at 75. And how many times can 30 go into 75? Well, if I know my 3's, I know my 30's. 3 times 2 is 6, so 30 times 2 is 60. So I divided, I multiplied, I'm going to subtract. 5 minus 0 is 5, and 7 minus 6 is 1. Is 15 less than 30? Yes. So I'm good to continue going. I'm going to bring down that 1. Please notice that I put the 2 directly over the 5 because I was going into 75. It's very important that you are putting your quotient above the digit you're dividing into, and that's going to come into play when we get into decimals, so get into the habit now. Now I'm going to put 30 into 151. Again, I am going to use what I know about 3's. I know 3 times 5 is 15, so 30 times 5 is 150. So I'm going to divide, and then I'm going to multiply. 30 times 5 is 150, and when I subtract, I get 1. This gives me a remainder of 1. So this one, again, I didn't have any scratch work. So let's do one where we will need some scratch work. And let's look at number 2 in your independent practice, page 265. So number 2 says 809 divided by 62. So I'm going to flip that around. Now I do not know my 62s at all. So I'm going to divide here. Maybe they made them all this easy for you guys. I'm going to divide here. How many times can 62 go into 8? It cannot. How many times can it go into 80? Well, if I think about 62, if I think about just 60, I know 60 times 2 is 6 times 2, right? 12, so 120. So it definitely can't go 2 times. It has to be 1 time. So 62 times 1, here, I'm going to make that a 7, and that's a 10. 10 minus 2 is 8, and 7 minus 6 is 1. Now I have to check here. Is 18 less than 62? Yes. So then I'm going to continue by bringing down this 9. Now I don't know how many times 62 can go into 189. I don't know my 62s, but I know my 60s, so that can help me estimate. So I know that 6 times 3 is 18, and so 60 times 3 is 180, so I think it's going to be 3 times. So I'm going to come over here and do 62 times 3 in my scratch work area. 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 times 3 is 18. And I get 186, so I can definitely subtract that. So I'm going to put my 3 there, and then I'm going to subtract. And I get 3, and I get remainder 3. So 13 remainder 3. Okay, let's do one more. Let's do, this one is 837 divided by 27. This is number 5 on your page. So I don't know my 27s, but I know that 27 would round up to 30, so I'm going to use my 30s. I know 330 would go into 83 2 times, because 30 times 2 is 60, but 30 times 3 is 90, so that might be too big. So I think I'm gonna divide 2 times, so I have to come over here and do scratch work with my multiplication. So I think I'm gonna do 27 times 2, and that is 14, carry the 1, 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. That's 54. I'm not quite sure, so I could try 27 times 3 just to check. 7 times 3 is 21, carry the 2. 3 times 2 is 6, 7, 8. Oh, so 3 is going to work. So I use my estimation to get me close, so I'm not having to do all of my 27s. This will get me closer. So I'm going to use this one, 27 times 3. Notice I did not erase this one because it might be handy later. So I'm going to leave it alone. I am not going to erase it. So I'm going to put a 3 up here. And 27 times 3 is 81. And I'm going to subtract here. 83 minus 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 is less than 27. So I can bring down my 7. And aren't they nice? 27 divides into 27 one time. And 1 times 27 is 27. Okay, so divide, multiply, subtract to bring down. You may have to do scratch work, but do not erase all of the scratch work you do. Leave it there, but try to make it orderly so you can find it later. Please notice how I skip lines between each problem so that they're not rubbing up against each other, and all of my scratch work is in line with that problem. It's not written sideways, it's not slanty, it's all nice and straight. All right, I hope that was helpful. Thank you.